After Troy, Odysseus brought his ships to an unfamiliar coast. The land looked rich and quiet, but there were no walls, no market, and no human voices to guide them. He did not send the whole crew inland. He chose a few companions and carried wine and gifts. As they searched inside a cave, they found cheeses, jars, pens, and signs of flocks. His men urged him to take what they needed and leave, but Odysseus wanted to meet the owner and learn whether this land honored strangers. At dusk, a vast shape darkened the cave mouth. Polyphemus drove his sheep inside, then rolled a massive stone across the entrance. When it settled, the men understood it was not a door. It was a wall no human hands could move. Polyphemus saw the strangers, and his voice shook the rock. Odysseus invoked the gods of Gestrite and asked for welcome far from home. The Cyclops did not fear those gods and did not honor Gestrite.
"Where is your ship?"
he demanded, as if measuring how many ways of escape remained. Odysseus sensed the danger and lied.
The ship had been wrecked. We are only survivors.
The lie was not a game or a boast. It was the first defense left behind a sealed stone. Polyphemus did not release them. The cave filled with brief, terrified sounds. Odysseus held back the urge to strike, because even a dead giant would leave the entrance blocked. At dawn, the giant drove out his flock and sealed the men inside again. Odysseus understood that strength would not carry them out. Fear would have to become a plan. When evening came, Polyphemus returned to the cave. Odysseus offered him the strong wine he had carried from the ship and called it the gift a guest could give. The wine was not a joke and not a celebration. The stone still sealed the cave, and the men still waited in the dark for any road toward life. The Cyclops drank, his strength loosened, and his watchfulness sank into the shadows. Then he asked Odysseus for his name. Odysseus looked toward his companions and answered,
My name is Nobody.
Polyphemus treated the name as both a joke and a promise.
"Nobody will be eaten last. That will be my guest gift."
No one in the cave laughed. Odysseus only kept his men ready, because every word had to move them closer to a door that was still closed. When Polyphemus fell into a wine-heavy sleep, Odysseus and his companions heated the sharpened staff in the fire, then struck at the Cyclops' single eye. He did not die, but he lost his sight in a cry of pain. The cave shook, and the hills seemed to answer. Other Cyclops came near and asked who was hurting him.
"Nobody is harming me."
His kin outside the cave heard the answer and thought he was being tormented by a god or by sickness, so they went away. Before dawn, the blinded Polyphemus still had strength enough to act. He moved the entrance stone aside to let his flock out, then sat by the opening and felt each sheep as it passed from the cave. Odysseus tied his men beneath the rams and clung under the thick fleece of the greatest ram himself. One by one, the animals moved past the Cyclops' hands. He touched their backs, but not the men holding their breath below. At last, sea air reached their faces. They ran to the ship, pushed the rams aboard, and pushed their shaken selves away from the cave. When the sea wind reached them again, Odysseus could no longer hold back his anger. He shouted back.
The Cyclops had not been punished by weak men.
His crew begged him to stop, for the waves were still within range of thrown stones. But Odysseus's pride had caught up with his intelligence. When the ship was finally farther out, Odysseus called out his true name.
If anyone asks who took your eye, tell them it was Odysseus, the man who broke Troy.
The name crossed the sea wind, and it crossed through Polyphemus's pain. In hatred, the Cyclops raised his hands to his father, Poseidon, and begged him to curse Odysseus.
If this man was fated to reach home, let him come late alone on another man's ship, and find sorrow waiting in his house.
The sea still opened beneath the ship, but from that moment, the road home had become much longer. This version follows the Polyphemus episode in Homer's Odyssey, Book 9, lines 105-66. Odysseus enters the cave, Gestrite is broken, wine and the name nobody become a survival plan. Polyphemus is blinded, the men escape beneath the rams, and Odysseus' true name Boast brings Poseidon's curse. This film does not blend Euripides' satyr-play tone, the Galatea and Acis romance traditions in Theocritus and Ovid, or broad, one-eyed giant material into this Homeric line. This film follows one transmitted version and does not combine every variant into a single plot. Thank you for staying with this myth to the end. May the choices, losses, and long roads in these old stories leave a quiet echo after the screen fades.